Did
David's
everyone
growling.
did everyone grow up with these
Oh
blue
yeah,
Tupperware
absolutely.
cups?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I don't remember other than having kind of that pinkish colored one and maybe that yellow one. I don't remember ever a time in my youth when there wasn't one of these blue Tupperware cups
Yep.
in the cupboard.
We were a Tupperware house and and you know what? It lasts. It lasts and lasts and lasts. It's good stuff.
Yep. Dogs like to chew on it.
Well, I don't know. I didn't ever had a dog that chewed on it. Well, welcome to Wonderful Wednesday, the day after the birth of our nation on 4th of July, Independence Day.
Yeah. So I was going through before you get into the things. I read a lot yesterday. I probably read for
Thank you, Bobby.
I probably read for 2 or 3 hours yesterday, reading about the various um, issues and incidences surrounding the start of the Revolutionary War, which started a year and a few months before the Declaration of Independence. Started April 19th of 1775 with the skirmish at Concord and Lexington. And it was interesting reading the account of how it all came to pass and how it all came to be. But one of the things I saw today was one of my Facebook memories was from a few years ago. Said, "I wonder what it was like on July 5th, 1776." Can you imagine what that was like? Because now you're a traitor.
Trepidation.
Well, now
Trepidation.
you're a traitor.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
you're treasonous.
Absolutely. You're scared
Yeah,
to death, quite frankly.
yeah. You
And
have
you're praying a lot that
yeah,
this goes through and you are able to pull it all off, you know?
right. Yeah. Well, on that post from several years ago, Jeff Reynolds did mention that they probably all, given the given the fact that the founders like to drink, they probably all had hangovers on July 5th. So that probably didn't make it any better. But
Yeah, yeah, I'll tell you, there was it's we've been taking a constitution class. I've been, and so we're having it at our campaign office in Milton Freewater for the last 5 weeks. Next Monday will be the last one of this series. We're going to run it again. And, so we were actually talking about that on Monday, what it must have been like signing this, the gravity of the situation, the weight put on because you are basically committing yourself and your family to
being chased,
unknown.
being chased, being chased down by the mightiest military force on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I imagine there's quite a bit of trepidation, and of course, quite a bit on the 4th when the pen met the paper, and quite a bit when it was released, if you will. Some of the things I read about were the media moves. There was the same dynamic was alive in 1775 that is now. And one of the things that the Continental Army or the rebels, or we call them Americans now, did is because news of that skirmish, which in Concord and Lexington, which started the actual Revolutionary War, people were killed, and this happened over a period of I think it was like 72 hours, and I read an hour by hour account of it. But one of the things that happened back then is you needed to report. Right, the redcoats or the regulars or the English army needed to report back to the king and the generals what happened. And so, obviously, after they kind of separated and they were not fighting anymore, the reports started being made, and the Continental Army got wind that one of the reports was going on a particular boat, and the Continental Army hired a much faster boat to take news over there and they found a sympathetic newspaper owner, and they got there 2 weeks before the other boat got there, the official report from the English general, and they used it to, propagandize. I mean, that's what it is. It's propaganda. Propagandize for the cause of American freedom.
Yeah,
Kind of interesting.
Well, it is interesting. It's very interesting looking back and studying what was happening at the time, and learning the history. And I have to say, I have a lot more that I want to do about that. I could use a lot more education on that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. But it was fascinating reading yesterday, and I thought it was a very appropriate way to spend July 4th. But I don't think a lot of people realize how it all went down and how quickly. The thing started with like 50 or 60 townsfolk in the middle of, I believe it was Concord, and they got wind that the English army was looking for arms, because everybody knew this was going to happen, and so they'd been stashing arms in various places. So they got wind that the English army would be coming into town looking for arms, so they moved all the arms. At the end of this thing, where quite a few people died, not a huge number, but quite a few people died in the war start. They didn't get basically anything, but they came into town, and there was, they were kind of met with a small group of people, 50 or 60 people, or maybe 40 people. And there was about 80 or 90 British over here. And they got, muskets were only good for 50 yards. So
right, it was close fighting.
It was close combat.
Way close.
And they kind of, nobody intended to start a war that day. And the accounts vary about, who fired the shot heard around the world. But anyways, shots were fired and people moved around and people took positions. But the point I wanted to make is within, I think it was 48, maybe 72 hours, that 60 people had grown to 4,000.
Wow.
Within just a couple of days, with no social media, no email, no telephone. People came from all over and surrounded this road in between Lexington and Concord, and then going back to Boston. And within, I think it was 2 weeks, there was 15,000 people, colonists, surrounding the city of Boston.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And considering the times, it's by messenger and horseback and word of mouth and runner. Yeah, definitely. Well, this kind of, having trepidation for speaking out and wanting to speak up for independence and the rights of the time segues right into this story. I'm not going to go right into the movie Sound of Freedom. It segues right into the story about Nigel Farage. And he was, the former Brexit Party leader, and he has been deplatformed by the entire UK banking system.
Yeah, I've read
They've
about that.
all said, you know what? We're closing your accounts. He's been with this bank since 1980.
Wow.
And the bank said, we're closing your account without any explanation. He tried to go to other banks. No, we don't want your business.
Right.
And I thought it's important to bring this story out to light and talk about it, because this is where we are today, right? Political polarization and going, we don't agree with your politics. And now it's the politicization of the corporate sector. And so if we don't like your politics, we're not going to do business with you, which is kind of what's happening to Bud Light, right?
Right. Sure. Yeah.
But this is now your banking. And without banking, that's very, very difficult, because how do you pay your bills?
Well, apparently not much has changed in England in the last 250 years, because the king was doing that crap 250 years ago. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, you'll see a long list of grievances, a long train of abuses.
Yes. Yes.
that are much the same as what's going on there today. Yeah, I mean that's that is the new way for woke governments to deal with wrongthink. They will crush you. They will deplatform you. They will take away all of those things that other citizens who have not been convicted of wrong think or wrong speak enjoy. And it's pretty scary. I mean, I'll tell you what, you read some of the stuff from around the Revolutionary War, and if I were to say it, and sometimes I do, people don't like it. I mean,
Right.
it was much different back then, and people understood the only way that it was going to change.
Right.
And the only way that it was going to change was to refresh the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants. And unfortunately of patriots. And I don't know, that's where it's amazing. It's amazing that this is still happening.
Well, it is happening, and it's escalating all over the world, frankly. And I really believe it's because of the big push, the pedal to the metal for global governance. And so in this particular article, in fact, a lot of the articles that I looked at today come from PJ Media. I like the source. I liked what I was finding, to things to talk about that I thought our audience would find interesting. But so Nigel Farage goes on to detail his financial ostracization as bank after bank refused his business, and other politicians, always conservative, this has happened to also. They are, he says, unpersoned and rendered unable to conduct business or even function in society.
Yeah.
But they also face psychological extortion from vast, faceless institutions as their family members suffer the same fate. And and I think this will escalate even more when they're wanting to do digital currencies, right? They will control your money. And if they're not liking what you're doing, that's where that is. But now this is not necessarily digital currency. He can't write a check to pay his credit card, or if it had auto debit, right, to pay
Right.
the credit card and whatever you've got that tied to your bank. And I just think it's really important to pay attention to this kind of thing, and get some cash socked away if you can. But
Cash is king, baby. I mean, cash is king, even though it's junk.
it is.
The American dollar is the shiniest and prettiest pig with a lipstick on it of all the fiats. But I mean, fiat is in fact fiat. And gold. Well, I was going to say gold is probably more king, but really, brass and lead are.
So yeah. So he also goes in to say that he thinks it's because there was part of this is he's been tied to a Russian collusion, that he has been he's been accused of having financial leaks to Russian funding. And it was from a labor guy from the Labor Party had claimed in the chambers that he had received like €500,000 in one calendar year from the Russian state. And he says it's absolutely not true. It's like he's been accused of Russian collusion, and this could be why they're doing that. But,
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Right? Exactly. And so it's just something to bring attention to. So earlier I asked David if he had seen the movie Sound of Freedom, and he hadn't. So I don't know if any of you all had, but I'm going to post the link right here. That is, you can go to this link at angel.com. You can put your zip code in and find out where it's playing, because it started on Wednesday, even though Friday, yesterday, started on Monday. I'm sorry. Tuesday, yesterday was the launch of it. And I went and saw it on Monday afternoon, and it was great. I had trepidation to go see it and going, well, some things you just don't want to see, but I thought it was tastefully done. And I would like to hear your feedback on what you thought about it. I thought it was tastefully done, and I think the awareness needs to be brought out to the public of what is going on. I've heard the I-5 corridor is strife with, child trafficking. I don't know that, but I've heard that, and I think it's everywhere all of us live. I don't
Yeah.
think there's probably, in fact, in the movie, it depicts that the US is the largest consumer
That
of
wouldn't surprise me.
child trafficking. And
Both
so,
both drugs and human trafficking.
yeah,
A
sadly,
lot of people.
it's
The
just a,
cartels that are doing the drugs are doing the trafficking too.
yeah. And so I thought I enjoyed the movie as far as enjoying, I won't say, and I did enjoy it. I thought it showed me things that I wasn't aware of. So I learned something from this. At the end of the movie, not to give it away, but they showed they showed some live like security feed of children getting abducted. Here's a woman put,
Yeah.
with one in a little carriage and one a toddler walking along, and somebody just pulls up and abducts the kid and gone. And you
Yeah.
see a few of that, and you just going, oh my gosh. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lori. Um, So I think it's important to bring this stuff out. We have to bring the awareness to it, and because if you pretend, you can't be an ostrich and just pretend this doesn't exist, you know.
Yeah.
And with awareness, you can, this is why in the bathroom stalls it says you don't have to be a slave. You don't have to be a slave to prostitution and that. And there's phone numbers to call, and it is $100 billion industry. And so sad, so sad.
Can you
Um,
imagine losing one of your kids?
no, no, I can't imagine, the innocence that is lost and the pain parents feel with
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
you
I would.
know.
I would have to
And
hunt them down
kudos,
and kill them slowly.
I'll tell you, kudos to all the law enforcement people across the world that are looking for the pedophiles and looking for the perpetrators of child sex trafficking, because that is a tough job. You don't unsee anything that
Right.
you've been forced to look at as part of your investigation, and
Right.
they don't get enough credit.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Well, the
Yeah.
movie did fairly well. It opened up at 14.2 million. So
Yes. And so I just encourage everybody to find it. It's going to be out for a little bit, and go see it. So yeah, the White House and the Coke. You know what? We've got a story on that. they
there was
they
no Coke in the White House when I was there.
the
Macaroni
White
and cheese.
House can't even get its story straight.
The macaroni and cheese was excellent, but there was no cocaine. Come on.
No. So apparently, from this story that Rick Moran wrote, he says the White House can't get its story straight about where the Coke was found, because originally they said it was discovered in the library of the executive mansion. Well, that's where they live. That's the portion where they live. But then they
Oops.
said, oh, no, 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 no. Secret Service later said it was found in the West Wing, where the executive offices of the president are located, in one of the highest traffic areas of the White House. BS. Probably the first place it was reported is probably the correct place.
Could have been anybody's cocaine, right?
I don't think so.
Was Hunter there?
thought I read that Hunter was there, but I don't know. I don't know. And apparently, I saw something through social media that he was at the White House just a couple of days prior. So I don't know.
Well, absent-minded Hunter.
So nothing would surprise me. With that, quite frankly, nothing would surprise me.
Now, Dimebag Biden, probably has no surprises left. That was courtesy of Karen, by the way. She calls him Dimebag Biden.
Oh, I like that. Well, hey, something else that you may not have seen is the CDC. The CDC in Minnesota has been altering death certificates to remove COVID vaccine as the cause on a number of Minnesota death certificates. So, and I've just posted this story because, we're not getting the full picture. But by by speaking the truth about it, more and more are going, wait a minute, this isn't right, what you're doing.
No, it's not. It's never been right. And it's always been wrong. They've been lying since the very beginning, and they've been making all this crap up. And, and we all knew that, and we all said it. And everybody that said it, people like you and me were,
Right.
frowned upon and we're zealots and deniers, and we were killing people, and we didn't care about people. But we knew it was all a freaking lie.
Yeah.
And I don't, people should go to jail. People should be prosecuted. Maybe they shouldn't go to jail. Maybe they should just be prosecuted and put on house arrest. I don't know. But the fact is the government used their platform and their connections with media to perpetrate one of the biggest hoaxes on the American people that it's ever been done.
You're absolutely right. Heads should roll that haven't rolled.
Heads should roll.
Yeah. And so in this case in Minnesota, there's medical coding, right? And on death certificates. And so there's a couple of codes that explain it either is one code or the other. One is for a flu vaccine reaction, and the other code is for for a COVID vaccine. The other two are for COVID vaccine coding. And what they found was that the CDC removed or refused to add the codes to the death certificates that indicated someone died from complications involving the COVID vaccine. And so in almost every death certificate that identified a COVID vaccine as a cause of death, the CDC committed data fraud by not assigning the code for vaccine side effects to the cause of death. And, so like that's somebody did that. But they did this report. I just said somebody did that, but in this report, it says that it's algorithms that often assign. So are they using artificial intelligence algorithms to fill out a form for cause of death? But it's like when the algorithm can't figure it out, then somebody has to do it. And so there's 9 altered death certificates, and they're not talking about big numbers here, but let me tell you, if it's 9 in this particular area in Minnesota, what is it the rest of everywhere, in every other state and around the world?
Right.
So it's important to keep this kind of thing, I think, up and awareness about it, right? And awareness.
I agree. I mean, they're still pushing the shots.
Yes, they are. And yet look at how much we actually know about the dangers of them now. And so to have anybody or any organization or any doctor still pushing that is just, to me, it's so unethical. It's been unethical from the beginning, but it's
agenda, not science.
Well, it is. It is. If you can't question it, it's not science.
It's
You
agenda,
know.
agenda, not science.
So,
Yeah.
hey, we got more agenda I want to bring about. Have you heard what is called solar geoengineering?
Solar geoengineering. You mean trying to make the earth cooler?
Solar,
Trying to
yes.
make the earth cooler so crops don't grow and people die?
Well, that it's a lot of things. And so Bill Gates and billionaires, I'm going to post. I'm going to read some headlines just to give you the flavor of this. And this is a story from Forbes magazine of January 2021. A Bill Gates venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. What could go wrong? Now we have also from Forbes 1 year later, January of 2022. Solar engineering, why Bill Gates wants it, but these experts want to stop it. Now, another story, and I'm going to post all of these here, and this is from Time, and this is February 24th of this year. Why billionaires are obsessed with blocking out the sun. And then another story from PJ Media on July 3rd of this year, just a couple days ago. Biden administration pushes solar panels while looking to block sunlight. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Okay. So, what's behind all this? I don't know, David.
Well, again, I would say, Sonny, it's agenda, not science. I think
Well, that's why that was
everybody,
the perfect segue, because it is agenda.
everybody who had fifth or sixth grade science knows that plants thrive with CO2. The ambient CO2 level on the earth is roughly 400 parts per million, and optimum plant growth is about 1,100 parts per million. So reducing CO2 levels, which I will not concede is being done at all, regardless of what's supposedly, all of this taxation, all the other crap's going on. I don't think anything is being reduced, but reducing it would, in fact, harm plant life and would reduce crop yields and would cause famine and other things. So
It will.
it will.
And
It will.
there's so much unknown about this and what they want to do. And this has come out of, so Bill Gates has been financially backing the development of sun dimming technology that would potentially reflect sunlight out of Earth's atmosphere, triggering a global cooling effect. Like it says, what
Yeah.
could go wrong? So the stratosphere controlled perturbation experiment, launched by Harvard University scientists, aims to examine this solution by spraying non-toxic calcium carbonate dust into the atmosphere, a sun-reflecting aerosol that may offset the effects of global warming. Frankly, they don't have a clue what the hell it would do. And then I've read these 4 stories.
You can ask AI.
And they're saying, yeah, they'll ask AI and AI will come up with who knows what. But they're going, well, we'll try it over Nova Scotia. We'll do it over Nova Scotia and see how it works out. And Nova Scotia's going, the heck you will. You're not trying that over us,
Yeah.
And so
They need the sun.
So now there's this global pushback
Should do it over
by
Seattle.
people, but there's a huge movement to push this through, and it's the billionaires of the world that are all want the globalist part, and that all believe. Not all billionaires believe in the global warming or climate change. Yes, the climate changes; it does it naturally. Let me tell you, the stuff that volcanoes spew out. One volcano It's doing way
Yeah.
more than anything we cut. We're not going to make a dent in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cut down
So,
cut down the trees so you have room for solar panels.
right. So first, the scientists, there is a group of scientists and an open letter, the 16 initiators of the solar geoengineering non-use agreement, all scholars in their own right, argue there are three main grounds for preventing the use of such technologies. The first one is they point to the unknown risks. It could backfire, potentially catastrophically. Okay,
Oh,
very easy to say that. Next,
yeah.
they say the technologies could be used by governments or corporations to prevent work on other less risky methods to combat climate change, such as reducing the use of fossil fuels. Lastly, they ask who would get to decide how solar geoengineering is used, and how would such a decision be fair? The this is about global governance. And
Right.
it said they quote, I'm quoting them, these scientists that are not for this, the current global governance system is unfit to develop and implement the far-reaching agreements needed to maintain fair, inclusive, and effective political control over solar geoengineering deployment, they say, noting that, for example, the United Nations Security Council, dominated by only 5 countries with veto power, lacks the global legitimacy that would be required to effectively regulate solar geoengineering deployment. This is not something to mess around with, and I really think the billionaires need some different challenges. What do? Think about, what the hell can I do? They need to go have more fun,
Well, they
you
need
know,
to they
and
need to
not think
read
about how to destroy our world.
they need to read about 18. I think it was either 1814 or 1816, the year without a summer. There was it was a catastrophic climate event because of a volcanic eruption, and there was no summer, and the results were catastrophic. I mean that's you need to read that and look at it, but this is what I think they've done. They have read that and they have looked at it, and catastrophic is what they're looking for. And as I was sitting here, they want to put it in Ebenezer Scrooge's language. They want to reduce the surplus population. And I had a thought while you were talking, while I was sitting here pondering this, that I wonder if all of this geoengineering is, I wonder if New Zealand is somehow escaping all of the geoengineering, because for many years, many very wealthy people have been buying places in New Zealand. You remember hearing about that?
No.
Yeah, well, a lot of very wealthy, very rich people have places in New Zealand because they're not. I mean, he's not gonna. But Gates is not gonna live in Seattle if it gets colder, right?
Right.
Yeah,
But
he's not gonna live.
they own homes all over. Bill Gates has a place down in Indian Wells, California.
They do, but when they start clustering someplace like New Zealand, it kind of makes you wonder. It kind of makes you want to track the story and go, so is any of this, do any of that, well, you would know, you probably sailed, I don't know if you've sailed down there, you probably have, but, do the trade winds, or do the upper winds, the winds aloft, do they somehow miss New Zealand?
Good point. I'll tell you, you got the roaring 40s down there, and there's some pretty dang rough seas and around New Zealand. It's tough sailing there. You've got to look
Yeah.
at the right weather window or you get your fanny kicked. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's quite a ways down there.
Yeah, it is. It
It's
is.
quite a ways down there. But I'm just wondering if winds aloft, generally speaking, I would not take any ill effects from any experiment someplace else on the globe and pass it over to New Zealand.
Well, there's a thought.
It's my
There's a
conspiracy theory of the day. So if you know any pilots that fly that way, ask them about winds aloft in New Zealand, because I'm
Yeah.
sure if there is a deal there, and all the rich people are, buying property there, and of course they have houses all over. But when you see a whole bunch of them buy a place in a reasonably small area, you
Mhm.
start thinking. So if anybody, because Google's not going to tell me whether winds aloft there will shield them from any
You
ill
know,
effects.
a real interesting book. Trying to think of the name of the author, but the book is called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And David McCullough, I believe David McCullough is who wrote that. And it's an excellent book about how our societies, and winds aloft, it would be one of the topics in it, because it's how the um, climate wise, why some areas in the world have succeeded and developed faster than other areas of the world, and what affected them. And some of it is climate, guns, germs, and steel, and who developed what and why. And because the winds aloft carried fertile volcanic ash and bypassed some areas and deposited it in other areas, and they are lush and green, like say New Zealand, and yet you have the whole central part of Australia that is barren,
Wasteland,
a
yeah.
dust bowl. It is a wasteland. And so that was a fascinating book I read many
Good
years ago.
gold, though. Good
Yeah.
gold out there in the middle of Australia in the desert. Big chunks of gold just laying out in the desert. Chunks like this, like two
Oh,
hands
wow.
of gold. Yeah.
I didn't know that, but
Oh,
I've
God, the biggest gold in the world is found in Australia, out in the middle of nowhere.
I'll be darned. I'll be
Yeah.
darned. The things you learn on Captive Audience.
You can't grow anything out there. It'd probably
No.
be pretty hard to live out there, and it's dangerous just to drive across there.
Yeah.
But there's great gold.
Well, yeah, it's very desolate and it is very dangerous, and there's nothing there. I mean, it's just it's a lot of people do not venture into the interior at all in Australia. They go around the perimeter, but not across
Yeah.
on the
Well,
ground.
I was opening up one of our mining shafts on one of our gold mines, and I asked the question because there were scorpions there. My question was, there must be gold in here because there's scorpions at the entrance to this thing. My thought process was that if there were butterflies, there's probably no gold inside there.
Right, right. No kidding. No kidding. Well, talking about migration, money migration, the wealth has shifted to the red states as the blue states bleed money. And this story is out of PJ Media again. I'll tell you, I hit the jackpot looking for things. And so, in case our audience is wondering, no, there's nothing about Oregon in here today. But, this go woke and go broke. So, ever since COVID-19, people have been leaving the leftist states and going to the red states, and where there's typically been much more freedom, and particularly in the South. So the 6 fastest growing states: Texas, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, they are experiencing $100 billion worth of wealth migration based on the Bureau of Economic Analysis data.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot. And
More than
so
Bill Gates.
it is more than Bill Gates. You're right. And it's a collective. You keep hearing, like here in Oregon, how many businesses are leaving? They're pulling out of Oregon. They're pulling out of San Francisco. They're pulling out of Los Angeles, and pulling out of New York, and they're taking their businesses elsewhere. And it's because of the inhospitable high taxes and inhospitable business environments.
Well, the 10th Amendment, in the Constitution, allowed for and kind of promulgated the idea of these laboratories or petri dishes of democracy, in which states were free to conduct their affairs as they saw fit, rather than having the king do all of the policy across the several colonies. So, I'm a big proponent. Uh, go where
Yeah.
they want you,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
not where they don't.
You don't need to go anywhere that they don't want you by any means, by any means. Hey, we did get some really great news. We've had a lot of Supreme Court wins recently, what I call wins. Well, a federal judge on the 4th of July gives free speech lovers a big 4th of July gift. And so there was let me find that here. Chief Justice Terry Doty, I'm going to say is his name, Tuesday, Judge Terry Doty, Chief U.S. District Judge of the United States, District Court for the Western District of Louisiana, put a massive roadblock in the way of Biden's handlers' ongoing efforts to ensure that only their perspective can be heard in the American public square. And what he said is, all the government agencies, you cannot be talking to social media and silencing them. The agencies have to stop.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is a fabulous ruling. It's, of course, going to all be challenged in that. But he said he is a Trump appointee. Hooray for Trump. I'll tell you what, elections have consequences, absolutely. And but he's told the DOJ and some other of those alphabet agencies that you have got to quit this. You are overreaching your authority and you are affecting the First Amendment rights of people.
Good.
Yeah, it is really good. And so
Which court? Which court was that?
it was a district court. It was a district court. I want to say, what district was it?
Oh, that was written by my friend Stephen Cruiser.
Yeah. Good article by him.
Yeah, he's a good writer. He's a real good writer.
Yeah, I really like it. And he says that their attempts to suppress alleged disinformation, the federal government, and particularly the defendants named here, and this was Missouri v. Biden, are alleged to have blatantly ignored the First Amendment right to free speech. He noted that plaintiffs allege that defendants, through public pressure campaigns, private meetings, and other forms of direct communication regarding what defendants describe as disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation, have colluded with and or coerce social media platforms to suppress disfavored speakers' viewpoints and content on social media.
Disfavored speakers.
Yeah, right?
Wrong
They don't
thinkers.
want to hear people talk about COVID problems. They don't want to hear,
Wrong speakers.
lots of those things. So I'm just telling you, it's
That's
great.
what we should. That's what we should rename our show. Wrong speakers. Welcome to Wrong Speakers.
Just call us what we are.
Wrong thinkers, wrong speakers.
I don't know. I think we're in our right minds, frankly. I think we're in our right minds, David.
Well, the entirety of the media and the culture would beg to differ, because we're just stupid hayseeds that vote Republican, and
we're
believe
the deplorables,
we believe our lying eyes, apparently.
Right? And ears, lying eyes and lying ears.
Yeah.
Hey, one last thing. I posted a story on here right now about a former Trump attorney. There's a lot of lawfare going on. And the 65 Project has been the left's attorneys, and it's backed a lot, I believe, by Soros. that is been going after all conservative attorneys in lawfare, charging them with all kinds of things and trying to ethics complaints and trying to get them disbarred. Well, unfortunately, today,
Relentless.
Lynn Wood has retired his law license, and it's ahead of a potential disbarment. And so he, on Tuesday or Monday, actually gave up his law license. And I'm bringing this up because he has been really fighting this. And the Georgia Attorney Bar has, there's been proceedings. I follow him on Telegram, and there's been a lot of proceedings, and this happened to many other lawyers. Just about anybody who has defended Trump or defended election integrity and the election issues has been taken to task, and brought forward for ethics complaints. And Jenna Ellis won her case. I'm trying to think of another gal. She won. Some others have won their cases, but they're hitting them hard, and that's costing them a lot of money. And he was set to retire anyway, Lynn Wood was, but he wanted to, of course, on his own terms. And I really feel sorry for him because I think he's been a fabulous lawyer his whole career. He's never had any complaints. And it's wrong, this lawfare that is happening to lawyers, conservative lawyers, or lawyers. No, they're not necessarily conservative lawyers, but lawyers that in defending conservative people,
Yeah. Well, it's just not at that lawyer level either. It's at every level. I mean, you take just a small cadre of far left Twitter trolls that live somewhere in Portland. They go after people that you and I know, and they will get them fired from their jobs. They'll get them kicked out of their rentals. They will do everything that they can. And it's a relentless, if you can say nothing good about, the left, you have to admire the relentless tenacity to destroy us. They never let up. They never get in. It's a constant pressure applied constantly every day of the week. They go to work the next morning after an election. They never take a break. They never relax. They never let up. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Not saying that we need to, but we're suffering for it. They are. I'm not sure what I'm searching for a word. Something. It's some sort of demonic obsession with vanquishing their enemy, and
it's crushing. And they've been very effective at it, as you said. Very, very much. And
we're doing it right now. Right now, when we're doing this show, someone's doing that to someone right now.
We're the people that say, "Live and let live. Just leave me alone." Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. And they're the ones that go, "Wait a minute, you are stamping on my rights." And I go, "Wait a minute, what about my own?"
No, you don't have rights. You don't have rights. You're a horrible person. You're a racist and a homophobe. You should have no rights. You should be hung in the city square because that's how bad you are. Because you think wrong things and you say wrong things and you hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, the Republicans need to stand together and not be like some. And you're right, Bobby, and David, I don't believe that we have to. I
know. I'm in the same quandary. So this is what, and I've had these logical, philosophical discussions, like with my son.
Yeah.
And the point is this: if all of this comes down to one of these people standing in the square with you standing in the square, and there's a gun halfway between you, and they go for it, what are you going to do?
I'm going to go for it.
You're going to go for it.
You
You're going
bet.
to go for it.
You bet. You
Uh,
bet.
you know, I don't know. I struggle with this because I don't really care about them. I hate to say this, but I don't care about those people. But maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should care about those people, and maybe I should try to crush them. Which is not to say that I haven't, tried to crush some people in the past and actually have done it. Um, yeah, it's a weird thing. I don't know. I mean, they play by a different set of rules.
But and I feel like they're so few in number, David. They're so few. I don't believe that they're the majority, but they make people think that they're the majority, and I don't believe that they
They do.
are. And
They
it's a
do.
big psyop. And we've seen. But what I really, really dislike is that people, the politicization. Oh, we're getting some Chinese happening on here. Wow,
Look,
look at that
problems.
post.
Well, let me call that.
Oh,
Let me call that number.
okay.
Because I could use, what could I use there? Black magic specialist, love marriage specialist.
Oh boy, that's interesting. Choose your life. Oh, that's interesting. So, it's we have to stand up and speak up and fight for what is right for our nation, for our communities, and for our way of life for everyone. And I'm not going to, I will defend somebody's right to speak whatever the heck they want to speak, or their religion, following our amendments of our Constitution. I will defend people's rights for all of that. But they are attacking our rights 100% in every way, shape, or form. And this is where we have to suit up, show up, speak up, and fight back.
I think we do need to fight back. And of course, it's much easier when, and this is what happens with me, and I think it happens with you, and it happens probably with most decent people, is that when they attack people that can't defend themselves, you step in and then you crush them. And I'm not sure what the answer is there. We're never gonna be the same. People on the left are never going to be the same as us. They don't think the same way. And you're right, they're a very small majority of people, but they're very determined and they're very aggressive and they are somewhat well organized. And they're causing problems. The Farage story, same deal. Lynn Wood. I can't remember the name of the person just recently, just, a nobody like me, just some guy got fired from his job because the left didn't like him. Oh, there was another story not too long ago. A guy who worked at Fred Meyer got fired because.
Well, and that's why, for me, they can't fire you, David, and they can't fire me. They can't get me fired,
No.
And that's where people like us, I feel I have a lot more freedom to speak out because I don't have to worry about that part,
Right.
and I don't have a job that I'm going to get fired from. And I've already
Right.
fired a bank because I didn't like their practices. So
No, I have
I
to.
kind of did what the reverse of Nigel Farage. I went my bank. I'm getting some questions from my bank about my banking practices and going, wait a minute, you know what?
Yeah.
This is no good. And so I
You're not the
closed
only
all the
bank.
accounts,
Yeah.
several
Yeah.
accounts with them. And they said, why? And I told her, I said, I don't like your banking practices. And I
Good for
left
you.
and I went to a bank and I interviewed them
Good for
ahead of
you.
time,
Good for
and
you.
that's what we have to do.
John Rich is putting a bank together called Old Glory Bank.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know.
yeah, he's bought an actual bank, an actual federally chartered bank, has renamed it Old Glory Bank. And so I'm on their mailing list, don't know that I'll ever use it. I tend not to do banks anyhow. So I put
Right.
enough money in the bank to pay bills and the rest of it, I keep in my own access.
Okay, well, Thank you, David. I'll keep that in mind. And everybody, have a great evening. We'll be back tonight. Don couldn't be here. He has a friend in town. So I really appreciate David filling in for Don. Normally he's here on Wonderful Wednesday with me. And Friday, it will be Kevin and I because David will not be available.
That's right. First Friday, I'll be at the Gleese Mining District meeting talking about gold mining and mining in general and how the government is screwing us.
Ooh,
And I would
boy.
I'd like to say, thanks to everybody. Happy July 5th. And I hope you had a great 4th. But I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Baba Awan Bengali and thank him or her. I'm not sure. No pictures. So for coming by, and go ahead and share our show, Baba, with everyone that you possibly can around the world, because some of our greatest viewership has come from, you appear to me like you're probably from, you're not Asian, but some of them have come from Southeast Asia. So.
Yeah, some of them have. It was amazing what had happened on Facebook for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great night, and we'll see you Friday.